Hi friends, welcome back. In this episode we're going to talk about parallel major and natural minor scales, key signatures, relative major and minor keys, cautionary key signatures, the circle of fifths, and enharmonic key signatures. All this and more on today's episode of Music Mechanics. Parallel scales are scales that start on the same root. For example, the C major and C natural minor scales are parallel scales. They both start on the same root, namely C. And so you could say that C natural minor is the parallel natural minor of C major, or C major is the parallel major of C natural minor. There are even other parallel scales or modes which will be defined later. The central point to remember is that when anything is parallel, it starts on the same root, even if the scale or mode has a different construction. Scales such as the C-flat major or A-sharp natural minor scales contain many accidentals and would be quite arduous to compose in if it were not for the existence of key signatures. Key signatures are often referred to as keys. For example, what key are you in? Key signatures were created for two purposes: to make written music less cluttered and easier for a performer to read, to make the arduous task of writing music created from scales containing many accidentals easier for the composer. Take a look at this example. Notice here's a melody created from the C-sharp major scale, but it doesn't have a key signature. And now notice here's the same C-sharp major scale melody with a key signature. Notice how much cleaner it looks. In a similar fashion, here's a C-flat major scale melody without a key signature, and then a C-flat major scale melody with a key signature. Again, notice how much cleaner it looks. You may have discovered by now that key signatures contain the same accidentals as the major or natural minor scales that created them. This is because the scales created the key signatures. Notice in this example that all of the accidentals in the C-sharp and C-flat major scales are contained in their respective key signatures. In fact, this is the reason key signatures were created: to make the music less cluttered and to prevent the composer from continually having to write accidentals in. Unlike the normal rules for accidentals, flats or sharps present in a key signature apply to all octaves and in all measures, unless natural signs are present in the measure. For example, the G-flat in the key of C-flat major applies not only to the G-flat on the second line up from the bottom of the staff, but to all G-flats in all octaves and in all measures. The majority of Western harmony is based around the major and natural minor scales, so it makes sense that key signatures were created from these two scales to prevent the excessive accidental notation on a piece of music. Look how much cleaner and less cluttered the C-sharp as well as the C-flat major melodies are with a key signature present. Also, notice the presence of a cautionary key signature, also known as a courtesy key signature, at the end of the second measure. This is often included before a new key change to warn the sight-reading musician of the new key coming up. Since key signatures are created from scales, and each individual scale has a relative scale containing the same notes or accidentals, it must follow that the accidentals used to create each individual key must work for both a major and minor key. In this example, notice we have the B-flat major scale that has two flats, one on B-flat and one on E-flat. Here we have the G natural minor scale, the relative minor, which also has two flats, on B-flat and E-flat. Therefore, they both share the same key signature. Notice this key signature contains accidentals on B-flat and E-flat, which is common to both the B-flat major and G natural minor scales. Relative keys, such as B-flat major and G minor, must always contain the same accidentals. For example, the relative minor key signature of D-flat major must be B-flat minor and not A-sharp minor, even though the keys of B-flat minor and A-sharp minor are enharmonically the same. Here's the D-flat major scale, and here's the D-flat major key signature. Now let's look at the B-flat natural minor scale. Notice that this scale contains all of the same accidentals as the D-flat major scale. Therefore, the B-flat minor key signature contains the exact same accidentals as the D-flat major key signature, which is 5 flats. If we were to look at the A-sharp natural minor scale, which is enharmonically the same as the B-flat natural minor scale, we would find 7 sharps. The 7 sharps from the A-sharp natural minor scale would create the A-sharp minor key signature, which has 7 sharps. Therefore, even though the B-flat natural minor and A-sharp natural minor scales are enharmonically the same, they create different key signatures. One has 7 sharps while the other one has 5 flats. So D-flat major and B-flat minor are relative keys, not D-flat major and A-sharp minor. A proper way of referring to relatives might be to say that the relative minor key of D-flat major is B-flat minor, or the relative major key of B-flat minor is D-flat major. To be able to determine the relative major or minor key of a given key, there are 2 rules. Rule number 1, you can find the relative minor key of a major key by descending 3 consecutive half steps down from the root of the major key. So, for example, here's the key of D-flat major. The root of the key would be D-flat. If we go 3 consecutive half steps down, there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3, you can find the relative minor key, which is B-flat minor. Rule number 2, you can find the relative major key of a minor key by ascending 3 consecutive half steps up from the root of the minor key. If we're talking about the key of B-flat minor, for example, place a B-flat on the staff and ascend 3 consecutive half steps. And don't forget to apply the accidentals in the key signature. So, B-flat to B natural is a half step. B natural to C is a half step. And C to D-flat is a half step. The relative major, then, of B-flat minor is D-flat major. Incidentally, key signatures are only referred to as being either major or minor. It is incorrect to refer to a minor key signature as a natural minor key signature, although the natural minor scale is used to create the minor key signatures. You would simply say the key of A minor, not the key of A natural minor. Additionally, the natural minor scale is the only minor scale used to create key signatures since it is the only one that shares the exact same notes with a relative major scale. In other words, you will never see a key signature constructed from the accidentals used to create a harmonic minor scale, which is a different kind of minor scale that we'll cover later. Key signatures are created from major and natural minor scales exclusively. This example presents all the key signatures. Observe that each major key signature includes its relative minor key signature. Memorize these keys by the number of flats or sharps they contain. For example, the key of B-flat major contains 2 flats, the key of C-sharp minor contains 4 sharps, and so on. There is one key signature containing no flats or sharps, and that's the key of C or A minor. And then here are all the keys containing flats, along with their relative minors. And here are the keys containing sharps, including their relative minors. These note names listed below each key signature indicate which note is flatted or sharped. For example, the key of F major has 1 flat, and that's B flat. The key of B-flat major has 2 flats, that's B-flat and E-flat. Likewise, the key of G major or E minor has 1 sharp, which is F sharp. The key of D major or B minor has 2 sharps, that's F sharp and C sharp, and so on. All the key signatures, whether major or minor, are contained in the circle of fifths, a useful tool for the memorization of key signatures, which is shown here. This graphic is obviously a circle, but the fifths part of the name refers to the fact that if you start reading this diagram clockwise, you will find that the next key signature can be found on the 5th scale degree of the scale from the previous key signature. For example, if we start in the key of C at the very top of the circle of fifths, this C key signature was created from the C major scale. So if we go to the 5th scale degree of the C major scale, we find the note G, which is the next key signature in the circle of fifths. If we then start from that key of G, this G key signature was created from the G major scale. So if we go to the 5th scale degree of the G major scale, we find the note D, which is the next key signature in the circle of fifths, and so on. As we move around the circle clockwise, we eventually run into enharmonic equivalents. The circle of fifths is essentially a clock-shaped visual representation of all the key signatures and their corresponding sharps and flats. The neutral key, meaning it has no flats or sharps, C, is at the very top. The keys containing flats go down the left side of the circle according to the number of flats that they have. The keys with the least amount of flats are at the top, and they increase in flats until you reach the last key, C flat, or 5 o'clock on the clock. Similarly, The sharp keys are on the right side of the circle and increase in the number of sharps per key the further you go down the right side. Notice that D flat and C, F sharp and G flat, and B and C flat occupy the same positions on the clock. These are enharmonic key signatures. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like and leave a comment below if you have any questions. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you like the music you've heard in this episode, please be sure to check out my friend Ner De Leon's self-titled album at this link.